the center button. There it goes. There you go.
Okay.
Now it's recording.
Okay, well, just to introduce myself again, my name is Maura Roth-Gormley, and it is the 26th of September, Saturday. And I'm wondering if we can just start by having you state your name at birth and when you were born.
My name is Bluma Shapiro. Of course, now it's Bernice, but I don't go by it, so you call me Bluma. Okay, and I was born in Białystok, Poland. Białystok, that's the city in Poland. I was born in August, the 28th of August, age 28, 23. It's easier for me.
Yes.
Okay. And I was one of 5 children, or 5 siblings. I was the youngest one. A little spoiled, because my youngest sibling was 13 years my senior. Now you can imagine. At 6 I became an aunt, because my older brother got married and had a baby. So of course I was teased constantly by my friends that I'm an aunt. And I had a very nice childhood. As I said, we were, I wouldn't say that we were very rich. We were just medium people, family. My father was a partner in a loan association. My mother was home, naturally. That was Europe. Women didn't work. And my brothers were engaged in their jobs, of course. 3 brothers and 2 sisters, 5 siblings.
Could you give us their names?
Sure. The oldest one was Joseph. Then came Aaron. Then came my sister Fanny. And my youngest brother Morris.
Morse?
Morris. And myself, of course. That's my sister 5, right? And well, Białystok had at the time 100,000 population, of which 50% were Jewish. 50,000 Jews were in Białystok. And it was spread all over the city. There were no special sections, the Jewish sections or none. It was spread all over the city. Well, that covers the first question, I think.
Yes, I think so. I was wondering if you could tell me a little more about Białystok. Give us an idea of what it looked like.
Well, the city itself, it was a typical European city. And as I said, there were 100,000 population, there were many schools, it was a working center, many factories, textile especially. You know, Białystok was the 2nd biggest textile center in Poland. The first one was Lodz. That was on the western part. Białystok was on the eastern part of Poland. And as I say, a working city. People, a lot of hand workers and factories, but mainly was textile. And very cultural as far as Jewish is concerned. Many Jewish schools, high schools. And we did not have a university, but we did have a college in the city. And a lot of gymnasiums, which was high school here. And as I said, very Jewish. The population was very Jewish. We had many synagogues and many temples, and was mostly and exclusively, I might say, not even mostly, exclusively modern. You would call it now modern Orthodoxy.
Modern Orthodoxy.
You would call it that way. At the time, there was no such terminology at all. But when I compare it with what modern Orthodoxy is, this is what our city was, mostly modern Orthodox. We did not have the very radical Jewish religion in my part of town. They were mostly concentrated in the south and in the center of Poland. Those Hasidim, as we call them, you know. They were mostly in Galicia, which was south of Poland, and center of Poland, Warsaw, the capital of Poland.
So was the modern Orthodoxy movement, was that more like the conservative?
No, it was like the modern Orthodoxy here.
Okay.
And I continue being a member of the modern Orthodox synagogue in here. Just like, as I say, the terminology didn't exist at the time. You know? So it was either you were a Hasid, which was very Orthodox, or you were modern Orthodox, or you were a disbeliever.
Could you tell me a little bit about differences in how you observe between the modern Orthodox and the Hasids?
Yes, I'll tell you. The Hasidim had a special garments that they wore. They wore it here too. It was little black hats, we call them here. And they had more so in Poland. They wore long coats. It was taken, that later on of course I learned, they were taken, the style was taken from the Gentiles in Poland, and as I say, we dressed very civilly. I mean, by dress you wouldn't recognize whether it's a Jew or not a Jew. Just like everybody else. The Hasidim didn't. They had a special dressing. They wore special hats, and they were with just how do you say that? You know what a talit is? Yeah.
Could you actually explain that to us? Because I'm Jewish, but not all of us are.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He did the terminology. When you go into a synagogue, people, men wore big shawls, like, you know, actually was black stripes and white. Now they have in different colors and different designs. Even women wear it now, you know. But that's what it was. And they had little strings hanging on all corners. And that was in the Bible, prescribed for the Jews to wear, you know, the little strings. The Hasidim wear this on the top of their garment. So
Over top.
on top of this little talit, you know, a little talit katan, a little talit, not a big one, a little one they wear over the on top of the underwear, below the outside garments. The modern, as I say, modern Orthodox did not wear that. They were dressed like any civilian person, you know. And the observant was about something. The Orthodox are very strict as far as contact with women. With the modern Orthodox, it doesn't have it, you know. Even here in the synagogues, you'll find that they have little separation. However, they see each other. In the Orthodox, you do not. The Orthodox Jew will not shake hands with a woman. Well, the modern would. And they would not send their children into public schools. They had their own schools. And this is the basic of, as far as keeping strict to the prescriptions of the Torah, as far as food is concerned, both observed it very closely, both movements. And they're supposed to do it here too as well. And this is about the basics of it, you know.
And how observant was your family?
My family was modern.
Sorry?
Modern Orthodox.
Modern.
Yeah, not strict. And the Orthodoxy study the Torah as well as the modern Orthodoxy do, but not as much. You know, they're not so strict with everything. As I say, they don't shake hands with women, and they shouldn't look at the side of a woman. And the Orthodox women used to wear a peruke. What is it? Pieces of the head. Oh, come on.
A wig.
A wig.
Yeah.
I think Polish, you know. Yeah, there were wigs. They had to cut their hair at the night of their marriage. They had to have the hair cut and wear wigs. Now the wigs are nicer than the original hair. The reason for it was that hair is very sexy on a woman. And when they go to school, they shouldn't be tempted, so to say. So they had those wigs or scarves. If one couldn't afford a wig, they had a scarf. And the hair was shaved at the day of the wedding. And it's done here too. Here they don't shave, they cover it. Or as I say, now the wigs are much more sexier than their own hair, but this is it. So this was the basic things, you know, of the differences between the two. But as far as the non-Jewish population is concerned, they didn't see the difference, you know, you were Jewish. That was enough, you understand? Okay, that was up till 1936. I did not experience an anti-Semitism in Poland up to 1936, because I was young. I had very many friends that weren't Jewish. And we mixed in school very much with non-Jewish children. In 1936, the premier of Poland had passed away, except Mr. Pilsudski, and he was very tolerant. He was a socialist, but a modern socialist. And he was he was a really nice person, rather tolerant. But after he died, and at the same time, 1933, you know, Hitler came to power in Germany. Being they were very close neighbors, the influence of the anti-Semitism that spread in Germany went over to Poland. So it began slowly, very slowly, began to feel that we are not welcome in Poland. Although Jews lived in Poland since the 16th century, when one king invited, Casimir the Great, he was called, he invited the Jews from Germany to come and establish commerce. And this is when, and he was very well, the Jews were very welcome at the time. But still, after 1936, it was 37, 38, we also had signs in in the streets, don't support the Jewish merchants, don't buy Jews, and don't associate with Jews, and so forth and so on. Personally, as I said, I did not feel it, really not. But I saw it was going on.
You didn't feel anti-Semitism before 1936, do you mean?
No, before 1936, nobody felt it.
Nobody
because
felt it.
Pilsudski, the Marshal of Poland, he was tolerant and he wouldn't tolerate it. You know. But after 1936, he passed away. And the influence, as I said, from Germany came over to Poland. And they had to have, also the economy wasn't so very good, so they had to have a scapegoat, and who better than the Jews. So that was after 1936, and as I say, from year to year we felt it more and more. 1937, 1938, and 1939 came, and as I say, we had different writings on the pavement, even don't buy with the Jews, don't support the Jewish merchants, don't associate with Jews, and so forth. But personally, I didn't feel it, but I saw it in the streets, because I had friends that were non-Jewish, and yet we stayed friends.
So it didn't affect your relationship?
Personally, it did not affect me.
Did you know of any other people who were the target of anti-Semitism?
Oh yes, that's what I say. All those things, merchants, for instance, you know, if you don't support a Jewish merchant, and it's very often you find young non-Jews would throw stones at the Jewish girls coming from school. See, we didn't ride, no buses, we had to walk. So very often they would throw chairs and scream at us, Jew, 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 and so forth and so on. And this was up to 1939. And as you know, in September 1939, Hitler and Stalin made a pact by which they partitioned Poland. The eastern part was under the Soviet Union at the time, and the western part under the German occupation. And as I mentioned before, Bluma, the eastern part of Poland came under the Russian occupation.
Okay. I really want to hear more about the war and what happened after 1939, but I think we're going to try to do that in the second interview.
Okay.
So if we can just focus on before 1939.
Does anything else that I left out up to 39?
Let's see. We still have some questions about, well, could you tell me a little bit more about your family life and what your home was like, what it looked like, where it was in the city?
It was in the city, and we lived among Jews. Most of the streets that we lived were mostly Jewish, maybe one or two neighbors. And there was a synagogue in the street. There were many synagogues in Bialystok. One was across the street from where we lived. And most of the time I remember living there with the youngest brother, because all the others were married and they had families of their own.
That was Morris? Morris was your youngest.
And they had families of their own, so they lived there. Of course, the holidays, the family got together, no question about that, you see. And my mother was a homemaker, and my grandmother lived with us. And a little thing was, my mother wanted to teach me how to cook and to prepare something. And my grandmother, she used to say, leave her alone, she'll get married, she'll learn. And, you know, and it's true, I did learn. And I had a very active, youthful life, you know. We had a lot of friends, boys and girls. There was no such thing up till the 39, even later, that we go out with one boy. It was all company, a lot of boys, a lot of girls, all together.
So no boyfriends and
No,
girlfriends?
not yet.
Not yet.
That came later. And then we had movies, of course, and theaters, and very many activities in school itself, so it occupied our time.
What kind of activities were you involved in?
We had geographic clubs in school, we had German clubs in school, we had singing choirs in school, and this is the three that I had participated in, as I'm mentioning it. And we spent a lot of time in school, we really did. And that just kept us busy, you know. And as I say, we get together with the friends and we'll go out to the movies. We are not allowed to have manicure.
Not allowed to have manicures?
No manicure, no lipstick in school.
Okay.
And the dress was quite different than the one that's here. No uniforms, however, it was sort of a uniform, you know. We had to wear, it didn't occur to us that it's a uniform, but it was a black dress with a white collar and half calf, up to the half calf was in the length. And we had gymnastics, of course, and we had ball games. We had different ones in here, not baseball. And the girls did play football, the boys played football. Yes, and we had, it was called the two fields, it was called, that the girls played, and volleyball was very popular that we played. So we really were busy, constantly busy. And then we had a lot of homework. In average, I would say we had 2 or 3 hours of homework assigned to us, you know. In school we were from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we had a pause in the period between, that you could go out and play or have some lunch. Lunches were not served at school, you had to take it with you. And that's about what I can say. But it was, the youngsters really were happy because we were occupied constantly. We didn't have time to go to do any mischief because we were really occupied. And as I say, a lot of homework and reading. There was no television, you know. And radios weren't very popular either at the time. We had a radio in the house. So we read a lot of books. And
did you only read for school or did you read for pleasure also?
I read for pleasure.
What were some of your favorite books?
Well, history. The films as well. If I want to go to a movies, I was looking for history type. And our teachers knew that, you know. So we had a student, this is by the way, we had a student who was a very weak student, very weak. However, he was crazy about Clark Gable. Is this unfamiliar, the actor?
Oh, yeah.
And Cary Grant. He wanted to look like one of them. So there was we had the revolution, the French Revolution, and there was a film about Napoleon. So he asked that student to say it, so he would get a good mark, because he knew it is for the movie. The teachers were very tolerant, and it was a wonderful time at the time, really, very, very nice. And as far as reading is concerned, I liked history a lot, and I was aiming to become a chemistry engineer, which I didn't make it, of course, because of the war.
A chemistry teacher?
Chemistry. I was very good in chemistry and math.
So you wanted to be a teacher?
Not a teacher, I wanted to be an engineer.
Oh, engineer.
Yeah.
And was your school, was it secular, religious?
Secular. But we did have Hebrew language. We had a choice. French, German, Hebrew was obligatory. Had to take Hebrew, and Polish, of course. So I took German in school. It came very handy during the war. And you could put English or French, either one. Our school had German and French and Hebrew, of course. And other schools had German and English and Hebrew. Those are private schools. I'm talking about the high school. That's private school. In the public school was only German. You could Polish, of course, and only German. So if you hear somebody from Europe that speaks 3 languages, it's a very common thing. I speak 6 languages. You're very impressed. However, it's normal. It was normal. I had German in school. I spoke Yiddish in the house. I took Hebrew, and I took I had German, and then the Russians came. I had to learn Russian and English. So you have 6 languages. But as I say, it's normal for a European, especially in Poland, because it was between Russia and Germany, and Lithuania on top. So you had to know some. And Poland was occupied every century, and the languages changes. You know? So this is it was a normal occurrence.
So was it it was a private school?
I went to the high school was private.
And it was all Jews, but it wasn't religious.
All Jewish. No religion, just Jewish. I mean, it had Hebrew as a language.
Did you have religious studies somewhere else?
No.
No.
I didn't. I mean, in the house, I knew all the customs were Jewish, but otherwise I had no religion preparation whatsoever. Sometimes the teacher would read something from the Bible in order to familiarize it with the language itself, you know, but not specially, no. But there were religious schools too. There were very Orthodox schools but only for boys.
Only for boys. Did your brothers attend?
Yes, my brothers did. Yeah, they suffered. Yeah, they went to these very Orthodox schools.
And what was their experience like there?
Oh, well, one of my brothers, the youngest one, became quite religious because of it, you know. The other ones also tolerated. I don't really know, because, you know, the difference in years, I really don't know, but they were not as religious as the youngest brother. Not as observant as my father, even, you know, they were a little to the left. It was the trend at the time, you know.
That chemistry and math were your favorite subjects.
Yeah, chemistry and math.
And that you wanted to be a chemistry engineer.
Correct.
And I'm just wondering, was that an easy career for a woman to pursue during that time? Was it common?
I really don't know if it's a hard thing for women and for Jewish boys as well was medicine.
Medicine?
Yeah, that was a quota in Poland for Jews applying in medical schools. So very many went to Czechoslovakia and Austria if they wanted to pursue, or Italy if they pursued medicine. But women, if there were women doctors, very few, but mostly it was in dentistry.
So women, it was more acceptable for women to be...
Correct. It wasn't very popular either for women to, and you know, it was, let's say, delivering babies was also more women than in any other field of medicine. But I didn't want medicine, I wanted to be an engineer.
Yes. And when you were in school, you mentioned that you had a lot of friends, Jewish and non-Jewish. Did you have a best friend growing up?
Oh yes.
Yes.
2 best friends.
Can you tell me about them?
Well, their lives were just like mine, you know, the parents were just like me, and we spent a lot of time together, gossiping, you know, and making homework together, helping one another, you know, and they have the same activities. We can go to the movies together, and even in school we had the same activities. I was, let's say, in the German club, she was in the German club as well, or singing or whatever it was. So we shared our interests. That's why we became close friends, because we had the same interests, you know.
Did they go to your school also?
Oh yes,
What were their
schoolmates in school. Yeah, Dr. Goodman's was called. It's a private school.
Oh no, sorry. What were the names of your 2 friends?
Oh, my name. One was Musha, M-U-S-I-A, and was Anna.
Anna.
That was my closest friends. And then we also had Zionist organizations that we belonged to, you know. And as a matter of fact, I belonged to a very religious Zionist organization. It was called Tela Shomer. Doesn't that say, that means, look, I'm talking Polish.
Tela Shomer?
Tela Shomer.
Tela Shomer?
Yeah,
With
yeah.
a T?
Shomer Adati means
Tela Shomer.
Shomer Adati. It means
Shomer
a religious
Adati.
god. Shomer is a god in Hebrew. Adati is a religious one.
So religious guard.
It was called a religious god. And here I picked up some religious things, you know. But also we mixed, boys and girls mixed, which wasn't, again, very orthodox, you know. In the organization.
Shomer Adati.
Correct.
And what kind of activities did you do at the Zionist organization?
Oh, we learned about Palestinographia, and we learned about the history of Zionism, and we performed different plays pertaining to the life that will come one day in Israel, in Palestine at the time, you know. And we were very set Zionists, you know. We collected money. We had the flower days, it was called. We sat in a corner, put a flower, you put a donation. We had also organized plays to support the JNF, is the Jewish National Fund at the time. And every Jewish home had a box, which I have here too, a Jewish National Fund box, you know, that you put every Friday night, you light your candles, you put a quarter or whatever into the box. Those, and the youngsters, of course, well, those my siblings, they were very much interested in the Zionist movement. As a matter of fact, one of my brothers, Aaron, was signed up to go to Israel, to Palestine at the time, and my parents objected. They didn't want him to go, so he perished. So this is, but it was a very active life, but all concentrated on Judaism, more or less, you know.
And did you hope to go to Israel?
Oh yes,
Yes.
that was the aim. That was the aim, to go to Palestine at the time, you know. And our Madrids, which means our guides that guided us in these directions, many of them left, you know. None of us came, and they were settled in Palestine. Why don't you sit down, honey?
Oh, I'm okay.
No, and, I mean, as I say, it was a very active life. I had a lot of interests, you know. Just not because we were so very devoted Zionists and Jews. We also have the other side of the stuff of life, you know. mix with non-Jews and go to the movies and go to theaters, go to dances, school dances, that is.
So how did you meet non-Jews if it was only Jews
Well,
at
because
your
I was in
school?
public school. Before I went
Oh.
to high school, I was in a public school.
Okay, so
And their public school, we had both, Jews and
Oh.
non-Jews.
Okay.
So this is how I met the friends as well. And I'll tell you a little incident. One of my classmates took sick and died. And of course she was Polish and she had to go to church. And this came the problem for my father. Should I go to church? Because we Jews were not allowed to go to church. But she was a close friend and she passed away. So my father sort of, I don't know, do what you want.
So did you
And I
go?
went, yes. I could not go, you know, I had to go. So yeah, we went. And there was the separation of very hard, I mean, a strong line between the Jews and no-Jews in Poland. Also, already before 36 years. However, as I said, I personally didn't feel it. Because I had friends from public school and we befriended each other. They used to come to our holidays. I didn't go to their holidays. But they came to ours, so that's what it was. It was a very active and occupying life. We always had something to do because we didn't have television to keep us home and watch the dumb thing. So that's what we find some other occupations to keep us busy.
And what years were you in public school? Do you remember what year it was when you switched to private school for high school?
Well, I must have been 12 at the time.
Okay.
In 35,
So
around 35.
Okay. And you said that your non-Jewish friends came to your family's house for Jewish holidays.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little more about family gatherings and holidays and what
Oh,
holidays you observed?
We observe every Jewish holiday that exists on the calendar. And especially, of course, the family would come together in the high holidays, which is in September, and in April, the Passover holidays. There was the whole, not only the family, but also had friends, and my non-Jewish friends would come on those holidays, you know. They enjoyed the food, they enjoyed the gathering, you know, and the songs. Some of them participated. When the Soviets came in 1939, we even had a Russian soldier, and it was a general, whoever he was also invited, and he participated in a Passover tradition, which was very strange to him, you know, because he never experienced that in the Soviet Union. So this is what it was.
Yes. So when you had big family gatherings at your house, would your mother cook, your grandmother cook?
Mother cooked, and the grandmother stayed with us, she cooked too.
And what kind of food did?
Well, we had always gefilte fish, you know what that is. Okay, and then for the high holidays, usually it was customary. You didn't have supermarkets, so you had to raise your own, let's say, poultry. If you wanted a chicken or a turkey, turkey was very popular in the high holidays. So you had to buy it ahead of time and nurse it. We had it in the house. We had
In the house?
No.
Oh.
Outside. Outside. There was a place that we kept our woods, you know, for the winter. And in there, we would raise a turkey or chickens, whatever. All the neighbors in the same court, you know, would have their own chickens or their own turkey. Especially a turkey was, as I said, for the high holidays, and for Passover was always a turkey. So you had to nurse it and make it right, and then you went to the slaughter house and the men slaughtered it kosher way. And then the people were taking up the feathers in the kitchen, sitting there, picking the feathers off. It was quite entertaining. It was quite a job to prepare for the high holidays, because you know, there were microwaves and there was no electrical stoves. So, and another thing you must know, that on Saturdays, of course, you're not allowed to light the stove to warm the food up. So we called them a Shabbos goy, which means a Saturday Christian. He would come in and light the stove, and light the electricity and turn it off. There was no automatic things to do. So it was always, in every court had shall we say, a caretaker. The court should be clean and, you know, so he was the one who took care of the Jews that lived there.
So it was one Shabbos goy for lots of families.
Yes, he would come and light the stove and turn it off, whatever it was. And for Saturday, well, because he can cook. So there was also the very Jewish dish. It was called a chunch. And this you put into the bakery. Friday you prepare this potatoes and beans and barley and a piece of meat and derma, stuffed derma, oh that was so good. And you put it in a pot and put it into the bakery. On top you put paper and a cover and your name on it. So there wouldn't be any exchanges, and people had the same pots, they would take your pot and not mine. So you had your name on it. And Saturday, after the band came from the synagogue, women rarely went to the synagogue on Saturday, in my family at least. And we picked it up. Oh, that was my that was my duty to do, to pick up the chunk from the bakery. And yeah, it was hot. It was a whole night in the oven, you know.
Was that usually a job for the youngest child?
Usually, not for the youngest, it was too, however very little I couldn't take the pot.
Oh.
But as I grew up and I could take it, so I went. It was an honor, you know. It was very, very important because I would rather bring the meal to the house. And for chicken soup, of course, and sometimes it was matzo ball, sometimes it was noodles. It depends what mother felt like doing. And this custom remains up till now, you know. You know it. For Passover and the high holidays, this is what you cook. But it's so symbolic, you know. Every piece of food in Jewish planning the meal was symbolic. The matzo balls is a symbol of life. It's round. So there's no end, beginning and no end. It should be a round, peaceful life, matzo balls. And noodles is for long life, you know. The noodles are long, that is for long life. Everything had something to do with some symbolics. And that was it. It was very good. Everything was very tasty. Oh, chopped liver, don't forget. Yeah, chopped liver was also very popular.
So did the chunt have a symbolism?
No, it was just because you couldn't make it.
Okay.
You couldn't prepare it. You couldn't warm it up on Saturday.
Okay.
So you had to put it there. It was just a custom. I think actually it's originated in Germany. But don't quote me on it because I'm not sure.
Okay. And you said that the women in your family generally didn't go to religious services.
No, to the synagogue. No, on Saturdays, you know. No Friday night, no synagogue. They went only on Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
And when there was the remembrance services, somebody passed away. So they went to the remembrance service. But women did not go normally to the synagogue like here, you know. It was a place for them too. It was separated from the men. The men never saw the women because it usually was on top. It's a two-story synagogue, and there was a curtain, and the women were sitting behind that curtain. And another thing was very popular, and we were laughing at it, the youngsters, that not many Jewish women ever could read.
Could read?
In the book, in the prayer book.
Oh, in Hebrew.
In Hebrew, actually. There was no translations like here, we had in English, no, it was all in Hebrew. They didn't understand what they were reading anyway, but it was in Hebrew. And the women couldn't even read the Hebrew. So there was one woman who would read aloud, and they would all say Amen. You know? That was how they did it. But for you, my generation, we already knew Hebrew, you know, but the elderly women, like my grandmother, they didn't know Hebrew, so they would say Amen, and it was okay.
Okay. So the women, they didn't usually go to the synagogue with you. I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about current events in Bialystok, and how aware were you growing up of things going on?
Politics?
Politics.
Not much. Not much. I wasn't much interested in politics. I personally. I wasn't much. The boys were more interested in politics than we. And you know, our interest in politics was as much as it concerned Jewish life and Palestine. Mm-hmm. And you know, in 1937, I think there was a member in the Polish senator, a woman, Pristof was her name, and she forbade the kosher slaughtering. So of course it touched us. We knew about it, you know. It didn't pass, but she proposed it, and in some cities adopted it. And there was no Jewish slaughtering. So people didn't have any kosher meats. So they had to go to different towns, like little shtetls, you know, the little towns.
Was that law a reflection of anti-Semitism?
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. So, as I said before, after 36, we began to feel that we are not welcome. But we youngsters really didn't care. Just, who cares? Our parents were busy with it, but we didn't care. We just, you know, if you're young, you don't pay too much attention to the politics. Our politics was in school, all the gossips among our friends, you know, that was our politics.
What kind of things did you gossip about?
Oh, he goes with her, she goes with him, she left him, she went to another one. Look how she's dressing, you know, that stuff.
Wait, I'm confused now because you said that people didn't have boyfriends. There were some...
No, friends, just friends.
Okay.
You know, just friends. So boyfriend, we didn't even have the terminology of it.
Okay.
But really, you had some boy that you liked better than others, yeah. You didn't divulge it. Maybe a little friend knew about it, but then about it, no. There was nothing like I became involved with a friend. It was in 1938 that I said I like him, and openly I said it. I like that boy, you know. And this was later. I was 15 years old already, but not before that. No.
No.
We was in groups when bunches of us went, you know.
So did anything develop with the boy in 1938?
Yes. I mean, developed so much that we were together. We went to the him and myself went to the museums. We very often go to the museums. So I went with him, and yes, I mean, he would come to the house. I went to his house, but nothing more than that, you know.
What was his name?
Romek. Romek. R-O-M-E-A.
M-E-K. Okay. And you said you went to the movies and the museums. Were there a lot of museums in Bialystok?
A lot of what?
Museums?
Oh, yes, there were museums here. And then we had travel shows, travelers that would come from other cities. The same thing with the opera. You know, came from other cities and performed. We also didn't have a steady opera house, but we had a steady theater and many movies that we did have.
And you said that your family had a radio?
Yeah, you had a radio.
Did you listen to the news on the radio?
No news.
No.
Not about news now.
What did you listen to?
The programs, music, mostly music, you know. But I really was not interested in politics at all. And I dare say that my girlfriends were not interested either. If the boys sometimes would talk politics, but we didn't. I don't recall really well, something did happen, like Pilsudski died, or this woman that made this, we heard it talking at the table, people had talked about it, so we heard it. But we were not interested in politics. We were busy with ourselves. Very selfish, but that's what it was. And I suppose all the youngsters are that way. Not you.
And what sort of music did you like to listen to?
Modern music and opera. And there was no, at the time, no rock music, and no grass music and all that business. No, that was all we had. Modern music, dance music, and opera. And there we had those movie music, you know, theater music, play music. So we listened to it. And you weren't allowed to listen to much because you have homework. You don't listen to radio, you have homework, you know. That was very strict.
Did anyone in your family play music? Any musicians?
No, nobody was. No.
No.
I was in a choir, that was as far as I went in school. But no, nobody played.
Okay. I'm wondering if we can go back to, you said that your dad worked for a loan association?
He was a partner in the loan association.
Okay. Could you tell me a little more about that, about his business?
Well, I really don't know anything about it. I know that Daddy went in the morning, he went to work, into his office. At 2 o'clock he would come home. Dinner was always at 3 o'clock. So because it wasn't far away, so you have to travel. We walked. He came home, he ate his dinner, and he went back to work. And came back around 5 o'clock. He went to the synagogue first, and then he came at dinner. We'll have dinner in the house. I mean, the dinner actually was daytime, 3 o'clock. Every had dinner, and at home. and talked about his business day, which I was not interested in. I had my dad. I had my own interests, And, well, my dad was a very, very loving person, And if I didn't feel good, let's say, and I was a very active person, which I am up to now, crazy. And, sometimes I was tired, I was laying down. So my father got very concerned, just what happened, why is she laying down? He wasn't used to for me to lay down. So they were always teasing me too, when my mother was about to deliver me, my father was out of town for business or whatever. And he told my mother, if it's a girl, I'm coming. If it's a boy, I'm not coming. To the birth. Was I, so he came. And I was really spoiled, because my older siblings were so much older than others. I was a toy for them. At one time they threw me and broke my arm because they threw me around like a doll, But I had a very happy childhood, and up to the war was everything was good, was fine. Very active and busy, with things.
Okay. And you said that you were the baby of the family,
yes.
And that you were the most spoiled, and that your dad really...
It's true. I was spoiled. Spoiled by my dad, spoiled by my grandmother, and by my siblings. Very spoiled. And the thing is, they were all married when I was growing up. As I said, at 6 I became an aunt. So if I couldn't get something from anybody, I said, let's go to movies, and I needed a zloty, which was the currency. And my brother didn't want to give me, so I went to the other brother. I went to my brother-in-law. I always got it, About my parents and my siblings also had, social life in the house. So my parents always played cards twice a week. Sometimes they played in our house, sometimes in another house, They had theater, of course. Not so much in movies. They weren't very much for movies, but theater. It was a Jewish theater. So they went to the theaters and going to the park, spend some time in the park, sitting on the benches, talking with their friends. They had their social life as well.
Yes. Do you know how your parents met each other?
Very vaguely, but I suspected that was through a common friend of both families, Actually, my mother came from another town, and my father came from a little town not far from Bialystok, and they lived there till the First World War. Then there was, this town was a what is it called? It was a military center, the town that my mother came from. And it was destroyed during the First World War. This is when they moved. They moved over to Bialystok. So only 2 of us were born in Bialystok, 2 of the children. The other 4 were born in the other town. Bresk was called. This is where they were born. As the whole family, my mother's siblings lived there still, up till a certain time. Then in 1936, my uncle left for Palestine at the time. He came to the house, and we were also going there, visiting, and I had an aunt in another little town, a sister of my mother's. My grandmother had 13 children, don't forget. So we were visiting each other, and many of them emigrated. We had some in America, some went to Argentina, and many went to Israel, to Palestine at the time here. So we were also visiting them. That was also in vacation time. I was visiting with my aunts and uncles, traveling. And come summertime, we used to have a place at the beach on the forest.
What beach did you go to?
It was called Ignatki. Ignatki or Suprasha, different kinds of beaches that we had. Because Bialystok was a river. It was called Biala, white. That's why Bialystok. But the river, which means white, as I said, was never white. It was dark and dirty. That's I never learned to swim because of this.
So you didn't swim at the river?
Never. I didn't learn to swim. Actually, I was very protected too. I tell you, when we were in a resort place during the summer, during vacation time, it was about, let's say, 14 kilometers from Bialystok. And there we have boys and girls, friends too, families, you know, and we took a trip on the bicycles back to our hometown. And when I came home, I was taken away from me. And I was going on the bicycle to Bialystok, you know. So that was already last year, 1939, summer of 1939, right just before the war.
Okay. So you said that you traveled quite a bit outside of Bialystok.
Oh yes, we traveled to the family, you know, to different towns where they were situated.
Did you travel at all outside of Poland?
Not in my youth, no. No.
Okay. And you said that your grandmother had 13 children, and was that your mother's mother?
Mother's mother.
Your mother's
I never knew my father's parents.
Or your grandfather on your
My
mother's.
grandfather, yeah.
Okay.
My grandfather also was buried in Brest,
In Brest.
our original town. My grandmother was already buried in Bialystok because she died in 1938.
And where was your grandmother from? Do you know?
Brest.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Did your grandmother tell you stories growing up
Yes, yes,
about
yes.
her life?
She told me stories and she says, "You are very pretty, but be careful. If too many boys are coming to the house." I said, "But it's many, not one, so it's good, no?"
Do you
But
remember?
very protective.
Do you remember any of her stories? Any specific story that sticks in your mind?
Oh, well, this is what she was telling me about the family, you know. It's so important to stick with the family. Remember that you are the ones who carry on your life, you know, and not mother's maiden name. Don't ever forget your mother's maiden name. And, well, yeah, it was sitting.
What is your mother's maiden name?
Padua. P-A. You don't see in Italy? Padua.
Oh.
That's the name. That's where the name came from.
Were they originally Italian?
No,
No?
no. But they're immigrated, you know. Jews are immigrated constantly from one place to another. And, you know, do you know how the Jews had gotten their family names? You know that?
No, please tell me.
Because Napoleon occupied Poland, and Jews usually didn't have family names. It went like the son of, like Ben Gurion, you know that name, right? Because his father was a Gurion, so he's Ben, the son of. And this is how Jews were named. And Napoleon came and ordered all the Jews to adopt some names. So this is how you have the Tischler, which is a carpenter. You have carpenters. You have by the profession or by the town. Depends what name they had adopted. Either the town or the profession they were involved in. This is how Jews had their family names. My family name, my maiden name, this my father's name, was a very German name. It was called Ehrenkranz, you know. And in German it's Herrenkranz, which is a very noble name, you know. So I don't know how my father got it, but this is what it was.
Okay, so your mother's maiden name was Padua, and you said that her side of the family was from Brest.
Correct.
And your
My father
father's...
was from a little town, what do you call it? I don't remember offhand,
Okay.
but I knew it because many Jews from Bialystok were deported in that little town. It will come to me,
Okay.
I hope.
And they were introduced by a mutual friend.
Yes, that's what I suspect. We never talked about it, but I suspect that.
Uh-huh.
And my mother was a very beautiful woman.
And she worked just in the home?
Before she married, she was a seamstress. And after she married, I presume maybe the first 2 years she was working. But it wasn't customary for women to work unless you had to provide a family, you know. So she didn't anymore. I don't remember her being occupied with any kind of profession. No.
Did you know any families where the woman worked outside the home?
Outside the home, no.
No.
I really didn't know anybody. All my friends. I had a friend they had a place where they were, he would call it a cleaning place, but they were just washing the laundry and pressing it. So they had it in the house, and the father was a shoemaker, and the mother was occupied with this. This, I think this is done. Yeah, well, they're teachers. There are not women teachers, of course. Yeah.
So that was a acceptable
Oh
profession.
yes, yes,
for women.
very acceptable. But this is one. Sometimes you have a dentist, a woman dentist, and there's baby deliverers. What do you call them? Midwives. And that's about it. And mostly, of course, they were teachers.
Okay, and you said that your family sang a lot during holidays and that you were a member of the school choir. I don't suppose you remember any of the songs that you sang?
Well, the songs
what
were
they sounded
from,
like?
from the prayer book.
Oh, they were all religious songs.
And the dinners of the holidays was prayer book songs. Yes, definitely. And I still listen to dancing too. Every generation to just to do it.
I don't suppose you'd like to share them with us.
I would like it.
You would?
You would like my singing, is it?
Oh, I'm sure we would, but it's completely up to you. Let's see. I think I just have one last question, and unless you guys have, is there anything specifically? Oh, yes. So before I ask this question, I wanted to just make sure we got your siblings' names correct.
Yeah, say it.
The oldest was Joseph, and then Aaron, and then Fanny, and then Morris,
Correct.
and then you.
Correct.
And it was just the 5 of you.
Correct.
Okay, and your parents' names were?
Baruch.
Baruch?
Not Barak, Baruch.
Not Barak.
But it's
Not
the
like
same-
our president.
It's exactly the same name, you know.
Yeah.
You just changed it to a Muslim sound, but it's the same name. And my mother was Sarah.
Sarah. Okay. And I'm wondering if you can tell me about, you've given us so much information about like your busy, very happy life before the war. And I'm wondering if you could share one particular happy memory you have growing up in Bialystok.
Yes, I have one. I have one that, you know, we used to have dances, school dances, and inviting students from other schools. And this is where I met a boy that I said, damn him, I like.
Romek.
So, and there was certain, now later on when the Russians occupied our city, the school schedule had changed. They had you had 5 days of schooling, the 6th day was free. I think that's what it was, 5 and 6 days, the 6th day, so every time was another day. It happened that one of the days we went to school was a Saturday. And I was brought up to Saturday. And you know, and here we have a class, there were the Soviets already. They had a class and they had a problem, a chemistry problem, my beloved subject. And she wanted us to go up and resolve it. So I said, I know it, but I cannot tell somebody to write it. And he said, he's allowed to do it. I solved it, but I didn't write. Because I was so indoctrinated that I felt if I'll write on Saturday, my hand will come off. That's how much.
Fall off.
Yes, because you should not write on Saturday. But that too changed. Excuse me. I did solve it, but I didn't write.
And it was just in your head.
Yes, because I was indoctrinated that way. But that too passed, you know, the time I started to write on Saturdays too. Because I wanted to have a good mark, you know, so I did. But my teacher, who was also a teacher previously, she didn't come with the Soviets. There was another thing when the Soviets came, I'm already now in 39. So the school, as I said, the language Polish, that was the main language of all the subjects. However, when they came, they wanted to make Bialystok a city of Belarus. And of course, you had to learn Belarus, the language. There was not one teacher in the city of Bialystok who knew the language. So they changed into Jewish. So we learned Jewish, you know. All the teachers spoke Jewish. All the subjects were taught in Jewish. The Hebrew was gone away with. No more Hebrew. We had German, Russian, and Yiddish, Jewish. And we had a professor, okay, there was so many refugees from the western part of Poland that crossed the border and came to us. And they told us of all the atrocities that was taking place. And interesting that our parents, the older generation, did not believe it. Because during the First World War, the Germans came and liberated Poland from the communists, you know. And the Jews were greeting the Germans with bread and flowers. And they didn't believe it. This couldn't be. It's impossible. And Germany, don't forget, at that time was the most cultural, the most industrial city, the most knowledgeable country in the world, much more than the United States at that time. You know, so they just couldn't comprehend it, and they didn't believe it. Many of them could have been safe, go to the safe in hiding or go deeper into Russia, but they didn't believe it, that things take place. So, what did I want to say about that? I forgot. Yeah, so I had a professor from Warsaw, taught in our school, and
This was in 1939.
and he taught us Russian at lunch. He was a doctor in university, so he taught us at university, he was talking notes, but the language was policy, and he handed the exam. So that was already 1940, I suppose. And that was already 41 because the war was already 1940, whatever. And the exam has to take place. And we says, we don't know anything. What's going to be? We don't. He says, but in Russian it sounds much better. I said, girls, put yourself on me. In other words, in the Russian it sounds bad, Marsa, because we didn't know anything. However, every one of us passed.
Passed the test.
Every one of us passed. I was very lenient with the test. The thing was the teacher had to show that the students are good students. It was very complicated with the Soviet at the time, with the Soviet rules that they had there.
So how did you all pass? If you
I don't know, just passed. Just passed. Whatever they told us, whatever we knew from our notes, you know. But we couldn't talk one word. We did know because we had songs. We had songs in Russian. So we knew the song, the words from the songs. You know, that's how we learn. It's surprising. I learned a lot of words in Russian from singing, and I still do. You know, when I don't know, I think of a song and I have the word right away. So it helped a lot. The songs did help a lot. Over the radio, of course, you had Russian songs. So, and when you're young, you absorb languages much faster than when you get older.
And just to clarify, growing up, you said you spoke Yiddish in your home.
Yes, and Polish.
And Polish in the home.
And that's it.
That's it. Okay.
And that's it. And German, of course, was in school that I learned, but didn't speak it at home. We didn't speak it among ourselves, and the Friends neither. No. That's all the two languages that we used with friends, Polish and Yiddish. That was it.
I'm sorry, maybe I misheard you before, but were you starting to say something about going to a dance when you were... Go ahead. Sorry. When you were talking, before you were telling the story about writing the chemistry problem on a Saturday, or not writing it?
Yes.
You were? Did you want to say something more about that, or?
No, it's just an incident that I wanted to bring out how I was brought up, you know. I was brought up that you don't write on Saturday.
Oh, no, but before that, I thought you had mentioned something about a dance.
Oh, we had dances in school,
Oh.
Yes. We had dances in school every Saturday night in a different school. And many schools participated in it, you know. So, my school had, here the prom that takes place. Here we had no school. That's all the incident. I don't think we in the car. This is what I want to and my brother had to take no boys came to take me. And we invited boys from the school from and they invited us to school. But I never agreed to hold to this. My brother would take them, my youngest brother still. He would take them down, he had to pick them up, the whole bunch of us would go together home. You know. So I got the dress with acrylic. And the school is located far away from my home. So I was my brother who was married, and he's closer to the school.
Joseph?
No, those are the guys with Maurice. He had a baby at the time. And he took me to his house. And in the morning, Russia attacked Poland. I mean, Germany attacked Poland, the part of Russia that Bialystok belonged to. And that was the first signal the war started.
That was the day
September
after
39.
the prom.
Yeah, the night of the prom.
The night of the prom, right.
In the morning, we woke up and my father came back there and said, let's come on, we'll all sit together, we have to be together. There's already war. But I didn't believe it. In the court where my brother was at, where I stayed overnight, and my brother lived there, there were many Russians there, military men, and they didn't believe it, it was war. Oh, it just maneuvers, he said, don't worry, it's not worry. And my father came and says, it's a war. People are already dying, and the fires all over the city, and bombardment. The night we already at war, and as I said, my father came, let's go to our house or stay with us. Now, we lived, the house, the apartment apartment I shared with my parents. That's I and my parents. My grandmother had passed away at the time. So my brother and my sister-in-law and the baby moved into the apartment. And within 1 week, the Germans marched into the city. You know, the first thing, of course, that they did was they surrounded the people that lived around the big synagogue, the main synagogue, the temple, you would say here, and surrounded 2,000 Jews and put the synagogue on fire. Of course, everybody perished. My sister lived not far from the synagogue, yet they didn't touch the street. Then, of course, different restrictions took place as far as the Jewish community is concerned. In order to have a liaison with the Jewish community, they have to have somebody. So they declared that we have to have a Judenrat, a Jewish council. And of course, members of the Jewish council were all the prominent people, citizens of the city. And immediately, Jews were not allowed to go to the park, sit on the benches, walk had to walk in the middle of the street. Then came an order that Jews were to wear the yellow star back in front with Jude on it.
So these were all restrictions in 1939.
That's 39 already.
Okay.
No, that's 41 already.
41.
Yeah.
Okay.
From 39 to 41, we were under Soviet occupation.
Okay. If it's easier, I think.
I'm sorry, I skipped 2 years.
It's okay. It's fine. This is all. I mean, this is all great information.
But from 39 to 41, we'll go back. Okay.
Okay. But we actually we were gonna do all of the wartime everything after 1939 in the second interview. If that's.
But from 39 to 41, there was no Germans yet.
No Germans yet.
So you want to keep it now, or you want to also start later? But this is all before the war. This is all when I grew up and had a wonderful life.
Yes. Is there anything else that you want to say about your life before the war, before...
No, I think I covered everything.
Everything?
As far as my memory still works. So
Yeah.
I think you covered everything.
Okay. Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions? I just have one question. Like, do you have any specific smell memories? Like from things that you smelled at home or...
With the food.
The food is the main thing, of course.
This is what the memories are, the food. And you know, in many ways, I find myself thinking the way my mother, rest in peace, taught, you know, when I talk to my son or to the children. The tremendous laugh that I give to my children. This is what I got home. And I took it with me, you know. Well, then, of course, I suppose this is what it was. The way I conduct my family life is very much like the one mother used to do. And I expect my son to do the same thing he does. He does in many ways, he does. He's not very religious, but he's very traditional, the way I am, you know. He's one step farther away from Judaism, from my family, from my parents, you know. And he's the way I am. He does the traditional things that I do. Thank you. We often get together here with our friends here, you know, also survivors, most of them are survivors. And we're reminiscent. So my mother used to say this and this and that. My mother used to cook this so and so, you know, and we all do the same thing. Excuse me. Last Thursday, today's was Saturday. So Thursday, I had a fall right here, and you see I cut my eyebrow here.
Oh, yes.
And I fainted. Well, this is something that I do very often, so don't get alarmed. And I cut myself on there, and I was on the telephone standing, and I fall evidently, and I cut myself right here. It was a very deep cut. So now I was taken to the hospital with whole caboodle about it. I had 9 stitches, but he did a very nice job, you see. From Thursday till now, it's hardly visible, right?
Beautiful.
So my doctor said he did a good job. I said, I don't repeat it. And that's why they're all concerned how I feel.
Well, thank you so much for having us over even after the
I want to
accident.
thank you for wanting to know. You know, it's so important because we don't live forever, and you are the ones who carry on. You know, you have to carry on and see that it is not being repeated. Although, if you look around the world, it's being done right now in different kinds of countries. But we hope, you know, we hope that maybe you'll be a carrier of goodwill. And if I feel that they give you a little bit incentive to do it, then how proud can I be?
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.